Welcome again to the Neckbeard Experience. I found 3 absolutely wonderful stories I want to share with you today. The first one is Nutrition Beard, and second we have Arcade Beard. Then we've got Chest Beard. So without further ado, here we go. Story number 1, Nutrition Beard. So I work out with a personal trainer twice a week. The gym he works out of is one of those specialty gyms where people who train for major competitions like Ironman, bodybuilding, powerlifting, and they spend hours at a time. They do things that appear physically impossible to weak little me. It's a great place. Everyone is positive and motivated, and there's no pickup culture. Unfortunately, they recently hired a temporary nutritionist, a large, smelly, hairy, leering creeper named Frank. Frank is a strange mishmash of neckbeard and health nut. He loves those type of shirts that wolves are howling off of a cliff, but he always cuts off the sleeves to make them some sort of muscle shirt. Presumably because he thinks his pasty, flabby arms qualify as muscle. He guzzles muscle milk and is always eating a Lenny and Larry's complete cookie. According to the other trainers, Frank eats 3 to 4 packages during an 8-hour workday. He is unshaven, unkempt, and smelly. Sour milk and duck butter smelly. The first time I was so unfortunate to interact with Frank, he was walking around the gym getting in the way. Remember, he's a nutritionist. He has absolutely no place on the gym floor. I noticed him when he got close enough to me for me to smell him. He approached me from behind and he leered hard at my butt. I stopped my exercise and I stared at him in the mirror until he made eye contact and scuttled away. I mentioned it to my trainer Danny, who grimaced and apologized. He's brand new here, and so far he's not making a great impression. The second time I saw Frank, the owner of the gym, Henry, who's a really lovely man, introduced me to him and recommended his services as a nutritionist. This here is Frank. He's our dietitian while Melissa is on maternity leave. Have you had a consultation with him yet? I replied that I had not, and that I was happy with the diet plan that Melissa had drawn up for me. Frank interrupted. I'm sure I could use some updating. Men generally understand the ins and outs of how the body works on a much more in-depth level, considering we're the stronger sex. Henry looked startled. Frank, that's not at all correct. We've got people who have made hugely impressive strides toward their fitness goals, men and women. Melissa is a very educated woman and a fantastic dietitian. We're lucky to have her. Frank looked unconvinced. He busied himself scribbling his contact information on a business card, which he handed to me. Hit me up. He winked. I stared. If you need to update your diet plan. I looked at Frank. I looked at Henry, who looked vaguely troubled. I threw the card into the trash can, and I walked back into the gym. After my next session, I was in the woman's locker room when one of the female trainers, Ashley, stormed in and started ranting. That guy's a piece of crap. Hi, Ashley. I'm good, thanks. How are you? Seriously, Haiti? Okay, so not good. Do you know that guy Frank, the nutritionist? Yes, he's a creep. I was doing paperwork in the office, and this idiot spent 10 minutes negging me, whining about how none of the girls would give him the time of day, and complaining that no one liked his diet plans and kept asking when Melissa would be back. I was ignoring him, so I thought that he'd finally gotten the message when he stopped talking, but then he started playing some kind of anime porn on his phone. When I turned around to yell at him, he just said, I forgot to turn down the volume. And he freaking smiled at me. That's disgusting. Did you tell Henry? Henry's on vacation for 2 weeks. I wrote the entire incident down on an email, but holy crap, I am so grossed out right now. Ashley stormed off to the shower. I finished packing up my bag, grabbed my cell phone, and I walked out of the locker room. Absorbed in my emails, I didn't see, and therefore collided with Frank. He responded by falling into me, putting both arms around me to catch himself. Whoa, that was almost bad. I felt the same way I do when there's a spider on me, except worse. I shoved him away forcefully, and he stumbled backwards. What the heck do you think you're doing putting your hands on me? I shouted. The gym went silent. Everyone was staring. Frank turned white, then red. Ease up, it was just an accident. Jeez, relax. Overreact much? Danny materialized next to me. I think it's best you stay out of the gym and away from the locker room doors from this point on, Frank. I work here too. I can go where I please. You're a nutritionist. Danny used air quotes. My fury was interrupted briefly by the desire to giggle. There's no need for you to be on the gym floor. Go back to your office. When someone wants you, they'll come to you. Danny is not a tall man, but he's very confident and demands a lot of respect. Frank looked uncertain before glaring at him, spitting out something unintelligible about lunkheads, and stomped away. I told Danny I was really uncomfortable around Frank. He apologized and said that he would speak to Henry when he returned. Frank was quiet for a while. Everyone eagerly awaited Henry's return. The women in the gym studiously avoided interacting with him. The atmosphere was really uncomfortable. Last Friday, I realized I have a message in my other inbox on Facebook. It was Frank. That idiot didn't even bother making a fake account. Then he sent me text messages. Hey, you there? Ha 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 ha. I just saw you this morning. What's up? Do you know how incredibly inappropriate it is to look up contacts and try to contact them on social media unsolicited? LOL. Facebook is for everyone, sweetie. My Facebook isn't, which is why it's private. Don't contact me again. Oh, come on. Why are you such an uptight witch? Haha, we could be friends. Absolutely not. I'd rather associate with a genital wart. God, all the women at this gym are freaking princesses. Leave me alone. Come on, girl, I'm a really nice guy. You just have to give me a chance. I'll show you. Then he sent me a picture of his privates. Oh, your privates. I'm shocked you could find it. Has Henry seen this? Contact me again, and this whole conversation goes to everyone on your friends list, including your mother. Then I'll link his mother's Facebook page. I blocked him. Then I screenshot the entire conversation, wrote up a detailed list of the times Frank had made me incredibly uncomfortable, including the one Henry was a witness to. Then I attached the screenshots, and I sent them to the gym, CCing them to Danny. Danny called me. I am so incredibly sorry, Haiti. This is not the norm here, I promise. I have no problem with you or anyone else at the gym, Danny. Don't fret. I just want Henry to be aware that he's talking to clients like this. Okay, I understand. I absolutely support you calling him out like this. I can't apologize enough. Henry came back Monday. My session with Danny was on Tuesday. He looked like the cat that got the canary. While he tortured the life out of me, he told me the news. Frank had been off since Monday, and to return Wednesday. Therefore, he had no clue that Henry had come back. In Henry's email inbox, it was full of complaints about Frank. Complaints ranging from general discomfort to harassment. Screenshots of conversations like mine, some of which indicated that he had pilfered phone numbers and emails from the company records to contact people. Ashley's report of his inappropriate behavior, and even a few demands for gym dues to be refunded because people would absolutely not be returning. People were not having it. And all of these emails were after almost every one of his trainers had come to him with some kind of concern regarding our bearded boy Frank. Now Henry was a darling man. He's an old cowboy, the size of a fridge, and missing 3 fingers on his left hand. He's got the biggest smile for everyone, and a handlebar mustache that could rival Sam Elliott's. He is an absolute teddy bear, until you make him mad. Danny reported that Henry lost it. There was a hurricane of profanity. 1 or 2 of the decor items in his office were broken. The outburst was epic. Nobody thought to record this on the sly, so I had no idea how epic it truly was. Henry then calmed down, booted everyone out of the office, and supposedly set to work on smoothing things over with the clients who were intending on leaving. I left after attempting to switch my Thursday session to a Wednesday, so I could potentially watch the fireworks. No dice. This morning, I got to the gym and was relieved to see that it was still standing. I found Danny, and he gave me the snippets of the story between sets of pushing the sled. I hate that freaking sled. Frank strolled in for his shift, clueless of anything. Ashley and the 2 other trainers were speaking with Henry, who was manning the front desk. Henry smiled widely at Frank, and he invited him into the gym for a team meeting. Frank suspected nothing, and he came willingly. Henry gathered everyone to the center of the gym. Then he loudly and publicly listed every single one of Frank's offenses. Most of them started with, "This MFer," and ended with, "Give me and my business a bad effing reputation." Danny said that Frank was white as a sheet. Then he turned red, and redder, and redder. Some people were actually concerned that he was going to have a stroke. By the end of Henry's speech, Frank was nearly purple. He turned to Frank, who he had not looked at for the entire speech, and said, "Get the F out of my gym. You're fired. I will tell every gym owner and contact I know, and I will tell them that you're a disgusting piece of crap." Frank fled. Needless to say, the gym is back to its positive, motivational, and comfortable place again. Story number 2, Arcade Beard. So, for a bit of background, my friend and I are weekly regulars at an arcade near my house, and they have a deal that you can play as much laser tag as you want for 3 hours at a discount rate for regular customers. Here's an introduction to the cast. Me, I'm 18, 5'11", slightly overweight but muscular. I'm a rugby player and I'm a laser tag expert. Then there's Kitten. She's 16, 5'3", my adorable girlfriend. She's still pretty new at laser tag. She's got a great personality, and she's a little nerdy, so she's a magnet for neckbeards and weebs. Naruto, around 15 years old, 6'2", borderline fat. He's named for the hoodie that he always wears with the red cloud thing on the headband. So me and Kitten show up with my younger brothers and pay for our wristbands and whatnot. All the regulars are coming in, so we drink pop and wait for the first game. We file into the waiting room and wait for the new people who don't know where to go when we're met with a wave of body odor. Naruto is standing in the doorway looking at us with a smug expression on his face. He announced that he had just got here from a birthday party at a more well-known laser tag place, and he has more practice than all of us. We ignore him, as many new players say similar things, not knowing that we've been doing this for once a week for the past year. However, it's always the little kids who act like this. He then spent the rest of the time commenting on Kitten's Attack on Titan shirt. The game was pretty much uneventful, other than the only person that he would shoot or chase was Kitten, so me being one of the more try-hard regulars would kick off the wall and hang from the ceiling. I would let her run past me, then I'd shoot him and any other people in the area. Like I said, I've done this for a while. After plenty of killing and being yelled at for being a show-off, the game ended. That's when we saw an arcade game that was player versus player. Kitten looked at it for a second and she was hooked. She dragged me to the machine and she pumped quarters into the box, and she beat me 3 times in a row. I'm awful at games like this. Suddenly the smell of BO returned, and Naruto jumped onto the platform.
"You can't even beat a girl? What kind of man are you, you wussy?"
I cringed at his smell and I backed off the machine, but Kitten stayed and played with him for a game. After beating her, his smug crap-eating grin returned, and he turned to me and he said,
"Now it's your turn to witness a true gentleman."
For reference, he talked normally until he beat Kitten, then he went full neckbeard. I step up on the platform, and Kitten jumps off to go get a drink, but before she could leave, Naruto's hand was on her shoulder, and he said one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
"No, my lady, stay and witness our duel."
I somehow managed not to laugh, as he pumped quarters into the machine, and the game started. Like I said, I'm awful at these games, so he beat me easily. He then stood up triumphantly, turned to Kitten with sweat running down his face, and he wrapped his arms around her, and he started to walk away. Shocked, I could do nothing but yell, "What the crap?" And Kitten just stood there, looking like she didn't know what happened.
"I bested you, so now she is my prize,"
he said, smug as ever. At that moment, Kitten finally realized what was going on, and she ran over to me, confused whether to cry or laugh her butt off. Now smelling of BO, she yells out, "I'm pretty sure it doesn't work like that." Naruto, now confused as to why the lady he just saved had betrayed him, begins to sputter and finally says,
"This is because I'm fat, isn't it?"
We walk away before anything else could be said. He didn't talk much the rest of the night. Story number 3, Sir Samwell the Chessbeard. This story is about when I met Sir Sam. Now let's introduce the characters. Player number 1 is me, Lady Saber. I'm 16 at the time. I'm Finnish. I grew up in Belgium. I'm here in America on a 2-year exchange program. At this time, I'm still pretty new to the country, so I'm going through a culture shock. I'm heavy into fencing. It's been my sport for something like 10 years. For neckbeards, it seems to make the katana-wielding milady as part of their dreams. Player number 2 is Smooth Cheek Neckbeard. We'll call him Samwell Tarley, just because they've got to be twins. Fat as all get out, wears cargo shorts, and a bazinga shirt. sandals, and yes, the fedora. He also smells like sweat and old spaghetti sauce, and he has a really high-pitched nasally voice that sounds like a whiny toddler. Player 3 is John. He shares half of my courses and is really good at chess. He has a southern accent that I can listen to all day. I met Samwell at chess club. I'm pretty aware that it's a Neckbeard spawn point by now, but I go because I like to play. There are some good apples though, like John, so when I was there I'd mostly just talk with him. Today, however, he's running late, and he gets upstaged by Samwell. I'm setting up the board, and the seat across from me is empty, so Samwell asks to play. I try to politely turn him down, telling him that I was waiting for someone. Sam replies with, "Well, I don't see him." I grind my teeth a little at this. Samwell plops into the chair. He introduces himself with the tip of the fedora. I wish I was kidding. I was not aware of the Neckbeard stereotype at this point, otherwise I probably would have lost it right there. I play with Samwell though, rather than excuse myself. It quickly becomes clear that he's not familiar with the most special rules of chess. He accuses me of cheating on more than one occasion. First when I make an en passant capture, then when I castle queenside. He also tries to castle out of check. It's profoundly annoying. Not because of what he's doing, I'm perfectly willing to teach new players the rules, but because he's certain that he's right about it. He reminds me a lot of Michael Scott from The Office, just generally throwing fits and whining like a child when he's wrong, except more annoying and cringy. Samwell is trying to make conversation with me, I'm not really sure what about, because I cannot stand to listen to his voice. He's swearing like a sailor, I guess to try to sound edgy. With his voice, he just sounds like another kid on Xbox Live. I'm not able to tune out the food, however. In the middle of our game, he breaks out this all-you-can-eat buffet of pasta, ravioli, and God knows what else, all packaged in a Tupperware container. Thanks, Mom. My food etiquette, it is probably a little uptight compared to most Americans, but this was just obscene. He's shoveling it in mid-sentence, chewing and smacking, with his mouth wide open, spilling stuff all over himself. The food itself smells like death. In his face hole wasn't making things better. Meat sauce residue, it moves from spoon to his face, to fingers, and to chess pieces at an alarming speed. We get closer and closer to the end of the game, and Samwell takes longer and longer to move, even when he only has one possible move. Enter John. Finally, he sees me playing with Samwell, and he looks a little hurt that he's been upstaged, but he's content just to watch. I can tell John is put off by the smell too. John and I start a small side conversation, and Samwell is eyeing us back and forth. Then Samwell said, "Is he your boyfriend?" Awkward. This is only going to go two ways. Yes, we're dating, and you're a third wheel, or we are not dating, and awkward. John and I laugh nervously, and we tell him no. Then chivalry ensues. "Why don't you have a boyfriend?" "Well, I haven't been here very long." "Oh, okay. Well, when you do, make sure to watch out for all the a-holes and d-bags at school. They don't know how to really treat a lady." For the record, I was already well acquainted with the nice guy mentality. Call it morbid curiosity, but I decided to press the topic with Samwell. "What do you mean?" "Well, lots of guys, unlike myself, just like to treat women like objects. Most women have never been treated like a woman by a good guy." I am not exaggerating this quote by an inch. It's forever etched in my memory, like spaghetti stains on white pants. John is standing to the side and slightly behind Samwell. He's cocking his head a bit, and he's giving me, "Is this guy for real?" eyes. I can see the train coming down the tracks, so I try to change the subject, but my good gentle sir cannot neglect to impose upon my lady with his philosophies. "Most girls don't realize how beautiful they really are, especially without makeup, so they degrade themselves to get attention of guys who don't deserve them anyway. Like, I bet you don't wear so much makeup. You could get a boyfriend like that." 3 tries later, he snaps his fingers. I went from cringe to rage pretty quickly, and I ended up making a stupid mistake, and the game ended in a stalemate, which he treated like a world champion victory. There's not quite enough time left in lunch to play another game with John, but too much time to leave early. I politely decline a handshake with Samwell and I stand up to talk to John. Samwell, sensing that he needed to be in our conversation, hauls himself from his seat. There's really only a narrow lane between the chess table and the computers. 2 people can stand face to face, but 3 people of normal girth would have trouble. Talk about an elephant in the room. Samwell sidles up next to me, mouth breathing and sweating, injecting himself into our conversation like a bad batch of heroin. I don't quite remember how, but fencing comes up. Samwell's eyes go big. Wow, you fence? Like with swords? That's so cool. Where do you go to fence at? I get this question a lot more than you think. Most people don't really know much about the sport in the US, so this is a pretty harmless way to stimulate conversation about it. I don't think much of it, and eventually gave him the contact information for the gym I go to. I doubted that he'd ever get past Googling it, and at most, maybe give it to somebody else. My coaches here are really fantastic people, so I try to promote them as much as possible. Holy ravioli, I was in for a shock. Fencing practice is coming up next. Thank you very much for listening. If you like those stories, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, please do that. Well, thank you very much. Until next time, have a great day and take very good care of yourselves.